It's really nice to see when you post your videos out on Instagram. You can see the infectious nature that you have for it. So I've got 2 questions for you to finish. The first one being, what's the best advice that you can give personally at the moment to any coach that's out there?
To any coach, I think it's definitely back yourself in what you're putting on. What I found is there might be a session that you're not too sure on or why it's running, but I think if you're confident and you project yourself well and kind of go after it a little bit, the kids will buy into it anyway.
So we're here today with Scott Loach, former goalkeeper, professional goalkeeper, and now goalkeeping coach working at Derby County. So Scott, really good to have you.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Great to have you on a camp as well today. I really want to start where these lads are just sort of coming out of at the moment, which is grassroots football. So what was your first experience, I suppose, of grassroots and a goalkeeping coach?
Well, funny enough, I was trying to play outfield. Goalkeeper gets injured, I go in goal, and there happened to be an Ipswich scout there at the time because I lived down in Essex. And I'm still trying to work out to this day whether it was a compliment or not. He turned around to my dad and went, "He's a goalie." So from then on, from the age of 8, I was just kind of thrown in between the sticks. And funny enough, went on trial to Ipswich, who at the time was Malcolm Webster. So he was the very first goalie coach I'd come across. I remember them turning up for the first session, and I'd always had my hands here like this. And he was like, "I want them here," and I just thought, what's going on? Like, you know, I had no idea what was going on, and I just remember traffic cone after traffic cone, like touch a cone, dive, stuff like that. So it was, but I suppose at the time that just felt normal. Like I didn't know about all the different kind of styles. So my first experience of a goalie coach was very tough, a lot of up and downs.
So we're definitely seeing that at the moment. Younger goalkeepers coming into the system that have potentially played in midfield or as a striker or as a defender. And it's really interesting to see the style that they come with. It's not necessarily refined with technique or a bias towards it. Do you think that you went into goalkeeping with almost like a bit of freedom at that age because you hadn't played 3 or 4 years beforehand?
Yeah, and my dad was a goalie non-league, played for like Braintree Town and that kind of level back in the day. And I had an older brother, and we were quite lucky really. My dad was like a caretaker at the school, so we had like 2 old grass tennis courts that we turned into like a 5-a-side pitch. So we had lads of all ages around every night. So sometimes I was like the cannon fodder because I was the youngest in goal. And obviously being an outfield player, I was just like you said, a little bit fearless and didn't overthink it. So when I went in, I remember the trial game still to this day. I remember like diving the wrong way, hitting my foot or one hitting my face and things like that. And I think because I was just so confident about being in goal, that kind of helped me kind of set on the way, if that makes sense.
And your first experience then of going into like a professional setup, shall we say, where was that? How was it?
I was at Lincoln, so long story short, family moved back up here, playing grassroots, got picked up by Lincoln, and Keith Alexander was the manager. Steve Cherry, ex-Derby, Notts County, he was my first proper goalie coach, and I remember stood there once with my hands on my hips waiting for the drill to start, and he just half volleyed the ball at me, nearly took my head off, and he was like, "You're not going to save anything stood like that," so he kind of sharpened me up straight away. But yeah, that was like a really rude awakening from school going into like a men's environment. It was still the kind of days where you had to clean boots, you know, do your kit, which I think was really good though because you got respect from the older lads. And we got to work quite closely with Alan Marriott, who was the first team goalie at the time, because obviously there was only 2 goalies at the club. So that was quite good for me, whereas you see it now, there's probably maybe 8, isn't there, until you can get to work with the first team. So I was kind of thrown into the fire early on in terms of playing with the men, which also I think gave me a step forward into progressing to the grade that I had.
Was there anything from that time that you took throughout your career?
Yeah, kind of like that, I want to say robustness of training every day. Like what I noticed with them and the way Steve Cherry was he was very big on, you've just got to get through it. Like, no matter how you train, or if you drop one, go after the next one. You know, don't hide away. If you hide away, then more mistakes will kind of happen. So it kind of taught me from a young age, and I think when I was playing in my career, I was quite consistent in terms of playing week in, week out. But I think that was because of what was put into me at a young age. Kind of just show up, you know, get through it kind of thing.
So talk to me after that experience there, loans and your pathway, I suppose, to where you ended up in the end.
Yeah, so I was a youth team player at Lincoln, and then the opportunity to go to Boston Town, and ended up playing 30 games for them with men's football, and getting 30 quid a game in a brown envelope, which I thought this is incredible. But what it did teach me was not only how to win, but how to lose, because them lads have money on it. So it was a really good experience for me. You know, if you come and miss a cross, right, how important is that, or which ones to come for? And I was quite kind of lucky because at the time we had a defender called Jack Hobbs that was kind of in around the first team, and we were funny enough, we were in the same room at Diggs. And because I played men's football, I went back and played for the reserves, and everyone was there to watch him. And I just happened to have a good game against Darlington, and Eddie Boothroyd was there, and it was like, right, we'll take you down to Watford. And again, the complete shift of the style of football from that to going to Watford in the space of a week. I remember playing against Darlington reserves on a Wednesday night to play in Arsenal Academy on the Saturday morning, where all of a sudden there was no kicking, it was playing out, being calm on the ball. So that was kind of a bit of a shock for me, but that's how I ended up at Watford, literally out of the blue like that, almost like taking my opportunity.
So you never know who's watching.
No, exactly. And I said that I've had the kids this week, and you can see that there's scouts on the sideline at all these academy games now, and I'm even drilling them in the warm-up. It's like, you don't know they're here to watch you, you know, do everything, but you just never know who's there, or everyone has such a certain opinion and style of goalkeeping. You might not be for somebody, but you'll definitely be for somebody else. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to drill into them all the time, standards. Whether you're throwing the ball back or kicking the ball back, you do what you do 100%.
So just take you back to the first loan experience. How did you communicate with the players? So being such a young lad at the time, you've got lads that have played in non-league for such a long time. What advice would you give to players or goalkeepers going out on loan to get the best experience, but also communicate appropriately, I suppose?
I think first of all, when you walk in, you've got to conduct yourself in the right manner. So I think you've got to kind of be polite and respectful. But I also think then your standards will then carry on to the pitch, and they'll respect you for that. I think what I've learned over the years, I think if someone's digging you out a little bit, it means they like you. I found that if they don't talk to you, then that's when you've got an issue. So don't take it too personal. But then also, if you believe in yourself, don't be afraid to give it back. So I think you've almost just got to back yourself and your ability, because if you're at a club, you're not there by accident. You know, you're there for a reason, and you've almost just got to go and showcase without going over the top, but go there and also respect the level you're going to as well, and realise these lads might have to win to pay towards the mortgage or pay towards the cars. You know, don't disrespect the level, because there's some good players out.
When we're going around clubs at the moment, definitely hearing more goalkeepers working with their defenders on key moments within the game. How important do you think, or maybe it didn't occur at that time, but is it something that maybe can be instilled at the lads at Derby now?
Yeah, I think it's massive. We were doing one the other day actually on the like an angled kind of session, and trying to explain to the, you know, like you want your defenders to go and close him down. It's like, well, do you actually? Because of that chance of it might be a nick or you being unsighted, whereas maybe they can block a certain side for you, and then all of a sudden you're only defending a 3-yard goal. So I think trying to put defenders into your sessions, if you've got the bodies, is so huge, because then you can kind of work out your position better, as well as what you can then dictate to your defenders in a match scenario. So I think the more you can kind of adapt and put that into your training, from my opinion, and this is what I would love to have done when I was younger, but obviously it wasn't like that, is get these key moments into your sessions as much as you can and make it as match realistic as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So on the camp that we've got going on at the moment, we talk around beat the game. We're wanting to see who can problem solve, so putting them in scenarios that look like the game, and who can work it out in best to achieve and be a winner within that situation. So reverting back to your point before, obviously on the national goalkeeping course at the moment we use the words position, action and communication. What changed for you at 16, 17, 18 to throughout your career when you ended up at Watford in terms of your communication and how you portrayed whatever message you needed to give to your players at the time?
I can't remember exactly who it was who said it to me, but the word was don't commentate, because it just becomes like a blur, just a noise. I just remember that saying, don't commentate. And then I remember like almost like saving your energy a little bit and kind of stopping at the source down, like I said, like right shoulder or man on or tight or squeeze, them kind of words. I think if you're consistent with them and loud, I think that has more effective than just chatting for the whole game. I also had to do a little thing that I used to like to do as well. If we always had a corner, I'd always go up to the halfway line and say something to my defender. One, because it keeps me switched on, and kept me in the game, but two, it just lets everyone know that you're still switched on as well.
If we go back to like positioning, what changed for you probably as a 16-year-old? I'm thinking defend the area, defend the space and defend the goal, those three key moments, versus maybe something that you coach now from a positional point of view?
Well, for me, I think from defender goal, I find goalies are naturally a lot deeper now. They're quicker. We was always kind of taught to come down the line a little bit, but, do you know what I mean? And just kind of use your frame and get in the way of it. But in 2008, 2009, it was a half volley into line strike. There was kind of nothing, maybe the old mannequin in there. Whereas now you can have all sorts going on. Mannequins being pushed over, defenders getting a nick on it. So definitely the goalies have been a lot deeper, and also on the angled stuff being deeper to give yourself more reaction time. And then defend the space and defend the area is higher now. Goalies get involved a lot more, especially from in swinging free kicks, keeping your high line up and projecting yourself, thinking I'm going to come for this, and kind of putting doubt into the attacker's mind. The biggest one for me probably has been defender space though, because that's huge now, isn't it? The way the goalies play as a sweeper keeper, and the high up. We do a lot of sessions now. I've been trying to do a lot of sessions where I have the goalie around penalty spot to 18 yards, maybe in the D, and then transitioning back in, because I feel like them balls down the side and that are a lot more regular now, with them through balls and little slide balls.
Interesting you say that. So from a positional point of view, hearing a lot of clubs talk about preventing before it even happens, standing in a position so that either the striker or the wide player, whoever it happens to be, looks up and sees you in a position to go, I actually don't need to put it into there, or I don't want to put it into there. I think that's probably like a really important message that I definitely haven't heard up until probably the last maybe 5 or 6 years in football.
Yeah, the biggest one for me, I think, is cutbacks. So I honestly can't remember until going to Derby doing a cutback session in 20 years of playing. Cutback just wasn't really a thing, and if it was kind of like I'm on my near post there, whereas now, like, they're going to these cutback areas and the goalie could be stood 4 yards out, and that prevents him putting it in. They turn around and go back. So the position for me on that is huge. But while I'm coaching, I'm still learning about that at the same time, which is why I find it so exciting as well.
So if we look at action as the final one, and this is probably the biggest one, where there will have been some changes, I'm sure, in your goalkeeping over the years. What are the biggest changes that you've seen in terms of the end actions?
The spread in the block.
Okay.
Massive. It was always hand in hands. When I played for the 21s against Germany in that final, admittedly it wasn't my greatest game. The first goal was a one-on-one where I've gone out against Cash, and you're thinking, if you were taught the spread, it just hits you. But again, it was completely alien back then. I know we're only talking 2009, but it was always head in hands, head in hands, head in hands. Whereas now you've got, the K block, the spread and the smother. That's been the biggest one for me. But then also now, but I find it the other way now. The lads can't do the smother. They almost drop into the block or the K block when the ball's 5 yards away, and they leave themselves completely open. So that's been a big change for me. Remembering
that something actually really worked well.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good point, just on the smother, the block and the spread.
Yeah.
When we're coaching, it has to be from a time and place.
Yeah.
So what's the distance that we are actually going into a block or a spread versus what would it look like when we're going into a smother? I think probably it doesn't look as cool.
No.
Would be a phrase that some of the kids might say. However, how effective can it be? And that might be down to our session design.
Yeah.
So as an example, if we're playing a 3v3 with the keepers, they can only go into that shape from a certain distance. That might be a constraint that you put in, maybe.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I also think the one where, you just stand and react.
Yeah.
I feel like they drop into that knee too early as well, where I think there's, again, like you said, it might not be pretty just standing there and using a forearm or a chest or something, a Nick Pope style kind of thing. But it's effective.
Yeah.
And you've got to make sure you can use that whole frame and body, because if they do hit it to the side of you, if you're on one knee, you're out of control. You're done, really.
Yeah. So taking it back to your career now, so you get your move to Watford, play a lot of games.
Yeah.
163
Yeah.
in total.
Yeah.
Yeah, including cup games. What's your highlight in that time?
Honestly, I just loved playing. I remember, I remember being in my flat, and I just played. I can't remember if I played the week before. I just got home from the game, and I was like, I can't wait for the next Saturday. And I literally just got in, and I was playing Doncaster the week after, and I just couldn't wait to get out. And when you're running across the box to warm up, I just couldn't wait for that feeling. I suppose standout moments, we beat West Ham at home one night, Tuesday night in the Cup, which was great. Beating 1-0 to keep a clean sheet against them was good. And then just getting the England call up, really. And being part of the club and the way the club treated me and looked after me, and that was great. So as actual standout moments, probably say got young player of the year, which was quite an achievement to play every game of the championship one year. So 46 games, I was proud of that. But I wouldn't say there was a specific game. I just really enjoyed playing games.
Sounds to me like the enjoyment factor is quite a big thing.
Yeah, I try and say it to the kids now. I was like, you don't really look at it like you've got the 14, 15, 16. It's like I'd do anything to go back down in the first team, like, or just to train. Love training, love being out. You've got to enjoy getting hit with the ball, or like the smell of that grass. You know, when you dive it, you just enjoy being out on the field. Otherwise, I mean, goalkeeping's hard enough, right? And I try and say to them, I use David De Gea as a perfect example. He was great for Man United, but there's still a small section of fans that really disliked him. So it's like, so no matter how well you're going to play, there's always going to be that noise somewhere. So you've got to enjoy it.
So fast forward now to the rest of your career once you leave Watford. Was it tough?
Yeah, so I think I went to Ipswich, but I stepped into a men's environment, a men's changing room, and it was a massive culture shock. So that was tough. Enjoyed it, big club. And then I think what I found after that, it was the first time that I never really played consistently. Just wanted to play game after game after game after game. So that's why I ended up eventually dropping the league just to try and play. Anything
you'd change?
There was a chance to go to Tottenham when I was at Watford, and I don't regret it. Like, I don't regret it at all. I've been lucky to have a career, but it would have been nice to work in that environment and see where that path would have gone. I mean, it could have been one of them where you fell away, or you could have gone on to the heights of your Joe Harts and stuff. Who knows?
So England, first camp that you got called up for that you remember?
It was a nice one, Malaga.
Yeah, okay.
So there was me and Tom Heaton at the time, and there was like Tom Hiddleston's in the squad, that kind of era. And I remember going out to Malaga and training with all these players. I was thinking, this is incredible. Then La Rosadela, the stadium is where Malaga play, like beautiful stadium, and ended up coming on for the last 2 minutes. I think I touched the ball once, but I think got straight home and put the kit back on in the morning. Like, loved it. Honestly, it was amazing. So that was my first memory. I can't remember too much about the training of that goalkeeper training of that start with Martin Thomas.
From what I know of Tomo, definitely what I've heard, he was fantastic, like psychologically, socially, about with goalkeepers, preparing them for games, making them the best that they could be.
Yeah.
Is that the experience you had as
well?
Yeah,
I remember him just being a really nice man.
Yeah.
Like, really kind of never got aggressive, never kind of overworked you, like, but yeah, like you just said, everything he said just kind of stuck with you.
Yeah.
So at the time I was with Joe Lewis and Joe Hart, so two obviously exceptional goalkeepers, and obviously got to work with Heats on that debut. So, and he just managed us all well, managed us all the same, didn't care who was who, what was what, and that really helped the group as well.
Nice. So 14 under-21 caps, and then 3 senior call-ups.
Yeah.
Within those 14 caps that you had, were you always the number one, or did you have moments where you were left out as a number 2 or a 3 that you went on camp?
Started off with Joe Hart as the 1, so I was kind of like always batting around, like kind of third choice. Me and Joe Lewis were kind of swapping and changing. So obviously Joe played the tournament, then he was too old after that. So when we came back, it was then me, Frank Fielding and Alex McCarthy. And because I was playing quite regularly at Watford, I got the nod. So I think for the first campaign, for the first 8 or 9 games, I was number 1. So, which was really nice. I remember playing Greece and Macedonia back to back in the September, and I actually got man of the match in both of them. When I got called up for the first team because of the injury, Frank stepped in and played against Portugal and Lithuania, the reverse fixture, and did really, really well. So after that, it was really hard to get back in.
How did you deal with that?
At the time, I found it really confusing because I've just gone up to the first team, and not kind of been dropped. But then, actually when you sit and think about it, it's like Frank sat there patiently and he supported me really, really well, and a top goalie. He played really well in the group games. I wasn't there, and then I think he probably won us the game against Romania in the qualifier. So sometimes you've just got to say, you know what, that's fair play. You crack on.
I think that's really interesting. Within our pathway at the moment, lads will come in and there might be 4 on a camp. So they could be the 4, the 3, the 2, the 1. And when they're always the number 1 at the club, sometimes it can be really hard for them to understand that when you come on an international camp, whether it's with England or another nation, you're not always that number 1. You've still got to fight for your place no matter what squad it is.
there's so much competition out there. So I think if you go into a camp or a club and think, well, I'm going to play, I think you're very naive and you're just waiting to be shot down a little bit. I think you've just got to go in there and think, right, I'm just going to be the best I can be. I'm going to support whoever I'm with, but then show them why I'm here.
So if we fast forward now to where you are, sat right here, so a coach at Derby County, got your own goalkeeping school that's flourishing, let's be honest, and completing your badges. What's next for you? Like, what are you trying to achieve?
And first of all, for me, I want to be a goalie coach, whether that's at the highest I can be. So whether that's, if that's 21s level, or the assist, that kind of like the in between one, like the assistant to kind of the 21s, because I do like the younger lot. I do like working with the younger lot. Obviously, being a first team goalie coach is really nice and appealing, but for me as a character, if I could get that kind of role of in between, so I could still work with the younger lot. So I think it's really good to kind of pass on that knowledge or experience you've had. And I was really lucky working with Joe Hart and Ben Foster. They were so good with me as a kid. So I think that's why I kind of want to pass them traits on to the younger lot. But then obviously you want to be around the top level as well, don't you? So that's where I want to get to. That's where I'd like to get to. And hopefully I can get there in the future. Regarding my own goalie school, I just love goalkeeping. I just want to show kids that whether you're 6 years old and just like getting muddy, or whether you're, let's say, Jack Thompson I work with at Derby, goalkeeping is the same for everybody. And it's giving them that opportunity, and almost, like we touched on earlier with the training methods, I've had parents before, like, that's more like a game. I was like, yeah, that's goalkeeping, and showing them how goalkeeping's done now, and trying to almost giving my resources back to grassroots a little bit, and saying, look, you're getting exactly the same as what they're getting at Derby. Obviously it's with me and Steve, my other coach, or it might not be like a licensed coach or whatever, but you're getting the same things, the same methods, the same thoughts, and just making the kids enjoy being in goal. And what the goalie school has done as well, really, really well, is you have kids from all different backgrounds that when they first turn up, they don't talk, and now they're allowed us in the group. It's like they've got their own little friends and little family. So you know what they say about goalies, they say we're all strange, don't they? So no, I love it. I love it, and as long as I can keep progressing and getting a few through the door, and I think them two Brazilians have made goalkeeping cool, so I'm just trying to make it cooler.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, and no, enjoy it. I just love being part of that kind of that union, that family.
It's really nice to see when you post your videos out on Instagram. You can see the infectious nature that you have for it. So I've got 2 questions for you to finish. The first one being, what's the best advice that you can give personally at the moment to any coach that's out there?
To any coach, I think it's definitely back yourself in what you're putting on. What I found is there might be a session that you're not too sure on or why it's running, but I think if you're confident and you project yourself well and kind of go after it a little bit, the kids will buy into it anyway. Sometimes it's not working for me. I mean, I like joining anyway, but I'll get in a dive around it, just create a bit more of a different atmosphere. So I think as soon as you go a little bit kind of somber with it and a little bit, oh no, panicky, that's when I think it crumbles. So I would just say, like, back yourself definitely, and just go after it and then kind of dissect it afterwards. That would be my view to anyone coaching kids outside of here.
Lovely. And then for players, best advice that you can give from your whole career?
Just show up. I know it sounds like that, but you can have a training session where you might not be great. Just go after the next one. You might have a game. You can't hide from it. Everyone's got footage and clips now, so you can't hide from it. Front it up. Deal with adversity and almost be like, right, let's go again. Have that robustness of being there every day on the training pitch, trying to learn, trying to improve. I think the minute you kind of don't show any accountability or pass the blame, I think you lose respect. So I think just show up every single day, be willing to learn, because even now at 36 and like retired, but I guarantee I'll learn something today, and I'll even learn something off the kids. I think that will hopefully help you over the course of your career.
Yeah, give you a good career,
Yeah.
stand you in good stead. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for coming in today.
No, I really appreciate it.
I hope you're going to enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah.
As always, we like to pass on to our former players a shirt with your name on the back, with the one.
Brilliant.
So this is for you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much.
No,
Read
appreciate it.
again.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Nice to have.
Yeah, it's nice to have. I mean, my little boy will take it off me instantly, but he's into his wrestling now, so he'll have to fight me for it. But no, I'm really delighted with that. Thank you.
Anytime.
Cheers.